Let's queer up sports. Federal judge blocks Arizona's Save Women's Sports bill, allowing trans girls to play school sports pending final ruling. A new court order says boys who have transitioned to girls in Arizona may play on girls' sports teams for now. State lawmakers passed SB 1165, interscholastic intramural athletes, and biological sex, also known as the Save Women's Sports Bill, in 2022. It clearly stated athletic teams or sports designated for females, women, or girls may not be open to students of the male sex. However, lawyers for two transgender girls in Tucson sued. Next, a federal district judge blocked enforcement of this ban. The Department of Education then appealed the ruling. This is where Monday's ruling from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit Court comes in. It upholds the federal judge's ruling, which says transgender girls are allowed to play on girls' teams. In response to the court order, Arizona State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Horne's office issued the statement on behalf of Superintendent Horne saying, quote, "This court action is a first step towards letting males play in female sports in general. That means this is a long-term fight, and I think it's an important issue. It's an important enough issue that we'll win it in the U.S. Supreme Court," end quote. You know, just like we were saying before about how we need more data, okay? We need more medical professionals to help us with the trans community. You know, our trans community is highly targeted at every single corner. And the reason, because we don't have enough data, my own personal opinion. If we got the data to show these people that, look, this is not a male playing in a women's sport anymore. That is not how the body takes in these blockers. That is not how that works. If we had stats, okay, real true stats to show people, I think that would be an easier way to combat all these times that we have to fight things like this when it comes to that are targeted towards our trans community. I'm really happy that they stopped this, that they were allowing these kids to play. They're kids. They just want to play a sport. They should be allowed to.
I think this is the language that the public instruction, that I don't even want to finish this official title, to be so educated and then to totally misgender folks in public is harmful, hurtful, all within itself. Because it's automatically, those folks who are trying to educate themselves and they immediately read something like this, they're immediately turned off without even doing the extra work, realizing that these young girls, they're humans who identify as. They say they are, they recognize that they are, so we must identify them as such. And so by just off the top, utilizing that language is harmful and hurtful. And the fact that these folks are identifying as that, we have to understand that there's no extra advantage for them being a trans person, a person of trans experience, playing the sport. There's no advantage. The data shows that part at least. And so that we have to now, I'm with you. I'm glad that they're upholding and allowing these humans to play with their colleagues and their classmates and to be in that sport. Because otherwise, think about how harmful it would be to want something, to grow in life knowing that you wanted to be and excel in that sport. And 20, 30 years from now, they'll have to now live with that. I could have been great at something and you blocked me. The world stopped me from doing it.
Yeah, you know, the thing that is most vile about this story and the most hurtful is that it's the state superintendent of public instruction, the person who is supposed to be looking out for all students, especially the most marginalized, is coming down and saying, you, but not you, not now, not ever, and I'm going to dedicate decades in a long-term fight to stopping your equality. Tom Horne is a terrible person.
I guess I hate being this guy at the table, but I don't think that the data is out and it's conclusive that male trans females who have male physical bodies don't have any advantage over a female body. I think that's why female sports were instituted in the first place. And I think there are different sports in which they account for that. And I think the solution is ongoing. And I think it's a broader conversation as to how we can make sports more equitable for everybody in the way that boxing does and wrestling does with weight classes and with height and reach. I feel like that's more the solution that we're going to be moving towards. And I do feel for some of the female athletes that have had to, or cis women athletes that have had to contend in some circumstances.
You know, it's interesting to me because I hear clearly from your observation, I think in a secondary way, phase advocacy of we need more study, more information, more commitment to understanding the trans experience as it relates to sports, very specifically. We need more of that. And I think that generally is true. But you know what's interesting to me about this is not that issue. I'm not going to weigh in on the decision making of what the federal court is doing to Arizona. I weigh in, like as you said, John, on the superintendent of instruction, basically the education secretary of Arizona, because when he says this is the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of the end of the world. Men get to decide that they're going to play women's sports. He jumps so far, he makes himself cartoonish in his intellectual thinking process, because he doesn't advocate we need more study, we need more evaluation, we need to have town halls all over Arizona and talk about this this issue, and so we can bring all of the different interests together.
As you would expect an educator to say, right?
Exactly,
Okay.
right?
Exactly.
And then when that happens, I think about those words, this is the beginning, and I'm standing in the doorway of the high school in Birmingham, Alabama, and now I'm Governor George Wallace. There will never be an integrated black person in white school ever.
Bull Connor with the microphone
Exactly.
saying misgendering, because the moment that a young girl says I'm a girl, her body is no longer male. And the fact that you're using it with the microphone, calling that out, all it does is just changes the minds.
That's what I hear here.
I agree.
And that has nothing to do with the trans experience. Nothing. It has to do with your ignorance. And that's what we should be facing when the Secretary of Instruction of Arizona says men are in a wholesale fashion going into sports. First, that's not true. And second, you're George Wallace and it's not 1950.
Yet you're in charge of all of that. Scary times.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ+ community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ+ community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.